Outlaw Country by Ghotty. Chapter 9, The Devil Rides Out. I didn't have time to really process the sounds before an explosion tore through my building. Blowing me straight through a wall, I tumbled through, curling into a protective ball as I sailed into the alleyway outside, coming to a stop against the dirt. It's ironic that they built a house just for me. It just so happens that it was the only one not made of metal. Pieces of wood, splinters, peppered me as I shielded my face, though luckily no heavy beam fell on me. The wounds were superficial. I didn't care about those. I just cared about the sounds of all the dying around me. I climbed onto my feet, catching myself as I pitched forward, losing my balance due to the impact. My ears were ringing and my eyes were blurry, and I shook it off as best I could and kept on moving. It wore off quicker than it should have as I ran back around the building, reaching the center of town. What I saw would haunt me. The walls were all in flames, smoke filling the air and mixing with the screams as one of the big protected chagra from the world tunnel turned to ash. There were people, humans. They were armed and they were gunning down the charya. They came in what seemed to be horseless carriages. There were dozens of them. I saw one launch something from a cylinder on his shoulder, flew towards the center of town, and the impact against the tailor's building, it punched straight through the metal and exploded inside. There was no chance anything inside survived. Those buildings were nothing but steel coffins. Some of the charya were fighting back. Those that survived the wall tried to find cover and shoot back. Some of the humans died, but the charya were far less courageous without the wall between them and their enemy. And they didn't do so well. I saw Pastor. He was dragging back a body. Shooting his rifle with one hand, his face was contorted with a mix of rage and sadness. The body was too far gone. He was wasting his effort. One of them saw me, pointed and looked confused. He said something to his companions, who yelled and pointed his gun at me, and I drew both revolvers and killed them both, one dying with confusion on his face and the other excitement. Their deaths caused a domino effect as the surrounding humans noticed. They turned to look at the shooter. It took only a few more deaths before they got wise and began to take cover. I didn't notice the mounted weapons on the vehicles until it leveled on me. I died behind a building, sending off one shot in midair before I hit the ground. It wasn't lethal, as the machine gun tore into my position immediately after. The firepower was incredible. I could practically feel the impacts against the metal building I was hiding behind. I'd have to circle around town, which would take a while. Too long, for example. Edmundo stormed out of his house, hands raised in peace. "Stop!" he yelled. "We surrender!" They shot him 6 times, bullets traveling up his body in a recoil. The final one bursting out of the top of his head as he fell, backwards. I heard Lilia scream in anguish, but I'm not sure from where, as I was already moving. I knew his lesson would come, and I hoped it would be the kind that you could learn twice. I suspect it wouldn't, and I was right. I circled around the alleyway, killing a few more folk that had been separated, too, from their groups. It was moments like these that I felt most alive. Good people were dying for nothing. Bad men were winning in every single way that mattered, and the only kept turning it felt right in a way. As if the good things that were just a lie hold over to keep you complacent until fate decided it was time for life to begin again at its truest and most primal place. That was just the way it was. I could feel the fire again. I had given up back when I had died, what felt like so damn long ago. But I could feel it again. Fate's got me spinning around again, pulling the same old tricks that worked every damn time. It worked again. I was enraged again. I would make the same mistakes over and over. I was going to kill every last goddamn one of them. I came around the final building, circling to the front gate. I could see the vehicles from their side, as well as the main force of attackers, about 20 men. Besides me was the chest half full of explosives from the battle on the wall. I grabbed one, lit the fuse, and threw it towards the center of the group. It was set for 5 seconds. 1 second, I took a moment to acquire my target, drawing my left revolver and switching hands. 2 seconds, I fanned the hammer, killing 3 of them, staring at the gunners. The gunshots made the rest of them flinch. 3 seconds, I killed 3 more of them men in front of me, emptying my gun. I dropped it as the survivors began to turn around in surprise. For seconds, I drew my other revolver and fanned it again, killing the other 2. The first 3 bodies I shot finally hit the ground with gaping holes in their chests. 5 seconds. The explosion went off at the back of the group, and that accounted for all of them. It was strong enough to plaster organs against the flaming walls, flipping over the vehicles and causing some of them to detonate. What caused a chain reaction, as well as the explosives in the vehicle from demonstrated in turn. Ammunition flew through the air, crackling like firecrackers as bullets fired from their own heat. The night was even lit up another in flames. Brighter than the ones on the wall, kicked up my dropped door revolver, catching it out of the air and reloading both of them with speed loaders hidden in my sleeve. I came around the corner from the gate, coming out behind the surviving group of enemies. Some of them had turned around to figure out what was the commotion. Others still kept on shooting. Too busy with all the few surviving fighters on Charya's side, I could still see Lilia trying to run forward, Edmundo's corpse, with Jorg trying to keep her from moving out of the cover, and failing. He took a bullet to his back and collapsed on top of her, protecting her even more as life left his body. I could see Diego looting Pastor's rifle off his burnt corpse. He took it and screamed a mixture of bloodthirst and fear as he managed to kill one of them. He had the presence of mind to dive back into cover in fear of return fire. Ammo continued to pop from the heat. Smoke filled the air, and my clothes were covered in sweat from the heat of the fire. I started shooting, dual-wielding my revolvers as I walked forward. I might have been screaming, but I ain't too sure. I started with the ones that were aiming at me, more muscle memory than tactics. I blew holes in their vitals. They fell, and I started with the ones that had their backs turned. They fell too. One of them had those cylinder launchers that went to fire at me, and I sent a bullet down the hole right as it pulled the trigger, and it exploded in his hands, obliterating half of his skull. I kept shooting, kept walking, kept screaming, and soon there was nothing but corpses in my wake. Combat over. Accessing performance. Skills gained, Rampage 3. Infused shot 1. Core progress 99%. It was over, so was the Charya. Lilia was crying over Edmundo's corpse. Jorg, left to the side, seemingly forgotten. Diego was shooting a corpse and screaming. Pastor was dead, his precious gun looted by a child. The tailor was in flames, and his life's work, the Blas's building, was on fire, so perhaps if he was alive, he didn't really matter anymore. I heard whimpering. Lacking the usual tiny inflection, I stomped over to the entrance and found a rat, a skinny little man hiding behind a treasure chest, cradling a gun that didn't suit him at all. He nearly shit himself when he saw me and went to raise it, hands shaking. I fell upon him, knocking it out of his hands. I put a knee to his chest and had a hole in his shirt. "Who ordered this?" I roared, voice bestial with smoke and gin. "What?" he squeaked. I laid into him, twice. Impact against steel plates, my gloves with meaty thumps. "Answer me!" He sobbed and spit out a tooth. "Mr. Woodswork." "Full name, Charles Woodwork." I leaned my face close, spittle flying into the kid's face. "Does he run a town?" "Yes, he runs New California." "Now, for the important question, where is it?" He hesitated, and I checked him again, and again, and again. His face was like an old sausage. "Where is it?" "West of here, past the mountain range," he sobbed, choking on his own blood. Do you know the way?" I asked. He nodded slowly. I hog-tied him, binding his wrists and ankles, and whistled for Jeff, if he was alive. He came immediately. He was covered in ash, but otherwise unharmed. "You all right?" I asked. "Yeah, let's go," he said, without his usual exaggerated tone. I patted his flank and told him to wait there. I went to fetch my guns from Blas. I opened the door, only to find his workshop in disarray. 2 dead bodies, Blas and that bastard who intruded on him. Blas was holding my rifle in his dead black hands, having used it to kill the intruder as the intruder killed him. I pried it from his corpse. It was shiny and even better than before. Blas did excellent work. I looked at myself in the wall mirror. I was stained with soot and had a few nicks from near misses. I was still wearing my best outfit, as I don't bother with pajamas. I had my guns and my ammo. I grabbed even more ammo from Blas's workshop, and I threw them in saddlebags, divided by smaller cloth bags. I threw the saddlebag over my shoulder and grabbed my old pack, and I walked towards the entrance. Lily was sobbing, the world crashing down around her. I heard Diego call out from behind me, voice strangely calm. "Are you coming back?" he asked. I didn't bother answering. I reached Jeff, threw the hog-tied kid on his flank, and mounted up. "What do you plan to do?" asked Jeff. Thought about that for a moment, and that was a good question. I glared towards the west. "I'm going to do what comes naturally." Buck Jones's Wanted or Dead or Alive poster and current stats. Buck has 0 chips. He's bronze core, occupation of vagabond. Stats, body 1.5, speed 3.8, mind 1.0. Skills, quick draw 3, take aim 3, penetrating shot 1, fan the hammer 3, single action 5, dodge 1, dual wield 2, rampage 3, infused shot 1. Traits, so Deadeye level 5. Unique skill, Outlaw. Outlaw Country can be found hosted on royalroad.com. This has been Scott M. Thanks for listening.